Okay guys, this is Landon with Core Dev Games, one of the developers of the upcoming voxel-based game Civil. Um, this is a little different from what we usually do, but as James was making your voxel tutorial, and you guys getting pretty excited about it, I thought that I might start to make some pretty simple tutorials, maybe get a little bit more advanced soon. Try to drive some more user base to the game. So here's the part 1 result of what we're going to do today. It's going to be pretty simple. It's a beginner tutorial. We're just going to move around, jump over some obstacles. Part 2, we get a little bit more advanced, maybe add some lava, a little bit of mobs. But that's up to what you guys decide what you want and what's most requested. So it's fairly simple, not too much to show off or brag about, but if this is one of your first games, it's a good start. So we're going to get started. We're going to try to keep this under probably 30 minutes, but we might not keep it under that, but that's alright. Alright, let's get started. So I've just added a simple plane. I'll redo it for you. Simple plane, and just scaled it up quite a bit, a lot. And so obviously we're going to use the cube that you saw. So let's add that and hit F to find the cube. Actually helps quite a bit. Let's find the camera. There you go. Helps quite a bit in the beginning stages when you're pretty starting off. It's hard to find stuff. We're going to name this cube player, obviously, and we're going to rename plain ground. And I forgot to hit enter on cube player. Alright. So if you look through this, this is what the camera's seen, and this is a free moving camera. But this is your actual game, and as you can see, you can't really see any depth of field. And what really helps with this is a texture. So what we're going to do is we're going to import a new asset. You do that by going to assets, then import new asset. I have this quick CG texture that is free. I'll give you the link to download that in the description below. Just import that real quick, and it gives you this nice texture. We don't have to mess with any of these settings. So you just drag it to the ground, and you get this pretty ugly looking texture. That doesn't look anything like the picture, you say. Well, there's always a bit of tweaking to do. We can move that to material just to keep it nice and organized. So you say it doesn't look anything like this cube right here. It's all ugly and low poly, right? Well, we can fix this with a handy feature called tiling. And there we go. That's a little bit too small. Tiling is basically repeating the texture. This is a seamless texture, so there will be no lines, or as you can tell, you can't really see any repeat marks or UV texture stretches. So that's fairly good. But as you can still see, the cube doesn't really look that good. So we're going to just click on materials to create in it and add a material. Name this player, and then in this you can see a color picker. Well, you can make it just about any color you want, but make it nice happy green. Then you drag that to player, and you notice that's this nice dark army color. Now, that wasn't really what we're going for. It doesn't look anything like this texture, does it? So, the problem is that we need a directional light. And look at that. Just brightens up the whole scene. Makes it more happy almost. We'll rename it Sun. And there you go. It's that nice bright green color that we went for. Save your scene because we've made a little bit of progress. Now, first thing we're going to do before we even start scripting, we're going to import a package under scripts. And all what we want is this smooth follow. So uncheck everything else, set smooth follow, and these two, of course. These are just the folders it's in, and click import. As this is a fairly basic tutorial, we're not going to write a camera follow script because that'll get a little bit more advanced, not too advanced, but this is a beginner, so we will keep it nice and simple. Create a folder, name it player, and just drag it out here by itself and move smooth follow into. And you can delete these scripts. There you go. And now we have our script. It's nice and commented, so if you would like to look at it and see how that runs, it says you can see these little two dashes and then words are a comment. That's not actually part of the script. It explains pretty much the whole script. You can figure it out pretty easily. So this script, I'll display it here. Just drag it to player to add it to it. And you're going to set, actually don't to the player. This goes to the camera. Alright. Click on camera. Go down here. And the target we want to follow is player. So now, voila. Now, of course, right now, we can't move our player around. So the script doesn't do too much, but positions it nice and well for us. See, we're not very good at placing it, but over here, it does it automatically. So that's a good little feature there. Save our scene and project. But right now, we're lacking in one of our most important things. We need to be able to move our cube. So let's add a JavaScript. The tutorials are going to be in JavaScript, but I will translate it and post a C# script in the description if you are under C#. Let's just open it up in MonoDevelop. I also learned a handy feature that if you go to Ed and Preferences, External Tools, you can change what to open it in. So for some beginners, Unity3D. I have no idea how you're supposed to pronounce that, but that's how I will today. And as you can see, open up is much simpler than MonoDevelop, which is this one. But I don't like it very much, so we won't be using that. We'll be using MonoDevelop. So let's open that up, and here we go. First thing we need to do is be able to move it, right? Jumping can wait for now. We won't be using start function, so we can just delete that. Under update, we're going to type transform.translate, which means transform is the position, rotation, and scale of the object. Translate is a function to move the position. So we're going to type in vector 3, which is x, y, and z axes, dot forward. This is, as it looks like, the direction forward, which is a shortcut for vector 3, 0, 0, 1. We're going to multiply this by input.get axis. Make sure you capitalize it. There's a nice handy feature here that reminds you to do that. And it also does this. This is a handy feature that tells me that the axis name needs to be a string. So let's put that in string, and we want the vertical axis. This is the up and down arrows. It is also the W and S keys. Alright, so let's look at what this is doing right here. What this is doing is well, let's first explain the get axis. Get axis returns, if you hit the up arrow, it returns as 1. If you hit the down arrow, it returns as -1. So if we multiply forward times, let's say we hit the up button, that will be 1 times 1, which is 1. So it will move forward 1. But if it returns as -1, it will multiply 1 times -1, which is -1. So it will actually go backwards. This is a handy little feature that I found. And let's multiply this by a variable, move speed, which we have yet to make. Which is an integer. And then that's so that we can control how fast it moves later on without any scripting. And then we're going to times it by time.delta time, which makes it frame independent. Otherwise, if we excluded this would happen every frame. So it would, let's say if you're hitting the up arrow, it would move forward 1 every frame. So if somebody had a faster computer running more frames per second, then you would move faster. If someone was running a slower and less frames per second computer, the object would move slower. We do not want this, so we multiply this by time.delta time to give everyone a fair advantage. Alright, so now we can play our game. First, we need to add the script to it. Yep, I thought we forgot to. And we need to change move speed to a good variable. So now we can move it up and down. But as you notice, we can't jump or move left and right. We've made pretty good progress, but that's not what we're looking for. So let's go back to that script. And we can basically copy and paste this script down. Alright, and the only things we need to change is this to right. And as last time, right is a direction under vector 3. It is 1, 0, 0 is the actual vector 3. And once again, the same as up here, it will return 1 or -1 and multiply that. If we hit down, -1 times 1 equals -1. So it actually moves left if we enter the bottom. Make sure you capitalize horizontal. And this will now change it to the right and left arrow keys, or A and D. So now we can play our game. And there we go. We can move our cube around. Actually, we can't. It's moving it for us. That was strange. There we go. I think I was just pressing a button down. So I'm not sure. If any of you get that problem, let me know. Let's save our scene. Let's go back to it. So now we're able to move around, but we still can't jump. So let's say. So we need to add a little bit more. If we want the space bar to be the jump button, so we're going to say if you hit. So if you input and then get key down, which means if you press the button, basically, very simple, key code dot space, which is a space button. Then we want to say we want to make a variable jumping, because we do not want you to be able to keep jumping in the air only when you're landed. Make that a boolean, which is a true or false. We're going to say if jumping equals false. Note that I put down two equal signs. That means jumping is equal to false. If I put 1, that means that I'm setting jumping equal to false. It's a big difference, and we'll give you errors later on if you don't note that. So if jumping is false, then we're going to say rigid body dot add force. Then we're going to say vector 3 dot up, which is the same as these, a direction up. Well, then we're going to do jump speed, which is another variable that we're going to make. So there we go, var jump speed equals an integer. Now we can go back to this, and it says enter a semicolon on number 12. Yeah. Times jump speed expected. Well, we did something else wrong. We didn't do enough brackets up here, did we? Oh, here's the problem. There we go. That should fix it. Yep. When you get errors like that, as you saw that I just did, I instantly read the first one and said, I have a semicolon. But you really have to look at all of the errors together. And when you get multiple errors like that, it's usually that you've forgotten a bracket. Not always, but I find that when you get 3 or 4 errors all around one line of code, then it usually is that. Or if you get a few hundred like I have a couple of times, that means you forgot to close off the update function, which is a big disaster. Alright, well, we get back on topic. So if we're not jumping, then we can add force to it, which makes this go up. One of the key parts is that we have to make sure that we have a rigid body on our player, which we do not. So we have to go to Component, Physics, Rigid Body. Now, I lost my mouse. I'm trying to get used to 2 screens. Alright. And all we're going to do is we're going to change constraints. We're going to freeze the rotation on all axes. Actually, I'll play it once without that. Change jump speed to 3 or 4 or so. And I forgot a part. Multiply this by 100 because it's hard to beat gravity, so you have to give it an extra boost. There we go. And run and jump. But look. Whoa, what is going on? I mean, we're flipping all over. And now we're stuck in the ground and we're doing cartwheels. I mean, that's pretty cool if that's what you're aiming for. Get a little crazy with these backflips and all. But if you're going for that, that's good. But we're not. We're going for the more controlled. So we're going to block all rotation. Make sure you save the scene. We don't want it to crash. And so now we don't do any rotation. But we can still jump in the air. For instance, I can pretty much fly. So we're going to fix this. Even though we're saying if jumping equals false, it starts off false by default. So we're going to then say we have to set it to true after we add the force. So now, if we play the game, we don't fly anymore. Well, the problem is, if we go back to inspector, that it never gets set to not true again. So we can't jump. So we have to call an external function that I'm called jump reset. Alright. So now we have to make that function jump reset. Alright. Now what we wanted to here to do is after, we jump, we wanted to reset to the jumping equals false. So we're going to put a yield function and then say wait 4 seconds. We're going to make this 2 seconds, and so that there's a little bit of interview between when they land, so you can't jump back up instantly. And then after these 2 seconds, we're going to set it to false. The reason that we don't just do this in the update function is because the update function cannot be yielded. It will not wait. This happens once every frame, no matter what. And so if you try to put a yield function in it, it gives you an error and won't let you play your game. So now we can play it, and we have to wait a little bit before we land, before we can jump again. This may be a little bit too long, so I'll change that to 1.5. And to clean this up a little bit so that we don't have to go in this code anymore, I'm going to make it a variable wait time. Then up here, var wait time. It's going to be integer. And so then in the inspector, we just have to set that to 1.5, not 15. Whoops. That's why this has to be a float. The integer is a whole number, like 1 and 2. A float can be a decimal point. There we go. A big difference. That's why it won't let me put the period in there. So now, all of our movement is done. We can move and jump around. And, yep, that's all of our coding today. So now we can just build our scene. So, I'm going to just kind of help you a little bit, and then you can go on your own. We're going to game object, create a cube. We're going to call this wall. And over here we're going to hit prefab, create prefab, call that wall, and then create a folder, keep it nice and clean, call it barrier, and drag wall in that. A prefab is basically something that can be duplicated. We want to drag this wall over to this wall, and so now we can just drag this to the scene and duplicate it very fastly. And if we ever want to add both of these, but we don't want to go through and change each individual ones, we can just go through here, change the scale to 100, and both of them are 100. So it's very, very useful when you have multiple scenes in a multiple objects in a scene. So now we just kind of place them. The X, we're going to set this to about By the way, how I rotate is the right mouse button. You can do that in all modes. You can also switch between these modes. This is the move around the scene. Move, and this is rotate, and this is scale. You can toggle between these by hitting Q, W, E, and R to change between them. Q is this one, W, and E, and R. It's way faster than going up here to click them each time. That's just a handy keyboard shortcut. So we're going to rotate this by negative 90 degrees. And instead of 300, make it 100. Nice and long, but not crazy. Drag this to make that the prefab. So this one also rotate it by negative 90 degrees. And there you go. So now, if we play the game, we've got these barriers that are too high for us to jump over. We should probably make them a little bit taller so that there's no way that you can jump over it. So let's make it 4. Yep. Now we can move around and jump. So these are the walls, and so that you can't get out the ends, we're going to right click and duplicate them, and then move it down here. Reset the rotation to 0, and then drag it like that. And then we can size that down. There you go. So if we duplicate this again, then drag it down to here, we now have a boxed in that they can't get out of. It's fairly cool already, but we're going to need a little bit more. So we're going to add a cube and name this hurdle. And we're going to copy the settings of the end one because we want them the same width as the boards, and we obviously should use the things that we've already made, so we can just use that real quick. There you go, and we can just position it. Once again, create a prefab, name this hurdler, and drag it over that. So now we can just drag it into the scene, move it, drag it into the scene, move it, drag it into the scene, move it, while all sharing the properties. So if we add something to one of them, all of it gets it. Just drag one in, and there we go. So if we now play the game, they're kind of floating in the air, so we can get on them. So here's for the Y, change it to, actually let's test this out. Move it down to 2.9. Copy this. And actually 3.7 is better. So here's this, and just drag it onto that. And why are we? Oh, that's right. You have to go through and add the position of them manually. And there we go. So let me maximize this. Here's our simple game. As you can see, you can jump over things. And now let's fix up this left wall. Why is it shorter than the other one? Next tutorial, we'll probably add some coins, some lava, and maybe some moving obstacles. And we'll add a little menu, a level system, something like that, maybe for later. All depends on what you really ask. Enough if you ask for a feature, I'll add that in, whether that's a little bit of simple artificial intelligence or a simple achievement system. Just post in the comments below what you would like to see in the next one. The tutorial is a little bit over 30 minutes, so my goal was to keep it but we're approaching the 32 minute. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please check out our other tutorials by James under the voxel development blog. He does text tutorials on how to make a voxel engine the way that we are doing it for our upcoming voxel-based game, Civil. If you're interested in that game, go to the About section under Civil, and you can learn all about the features that we're implementing and our future updates for it. Keep it posted, guys. I'll be trying to do a tutorial at least once a week, probably a few more, a few quick tips or extras around here and there. I hope you enjoyed this quick tutorial. Well, not really quick, but we made a simple game so far. So if this one's your first ones, you should be pretty proud of what you've succeeded here. And so, see you later, guys. This is Landon from Core Dev Games,